This episode of the Creep Street Podcast is brought to you by Martini Coffee Roasters. You know, people always look at me weird when I say I start off every morning with a big old martini. But then I set them straight, and I tell them I'm talking about Martini Coffee Roasters coffee. A delicious coffee made by the Martini family. They roast their coffee using a traditional method of sight and sound to roast those little babies to perfection. And they also sell green coffee beans for those home roasters out there. And right now, fans of the Creep Street Podcast can get 20% off their entire order by using the code CREEPSTREET at martinicoffee.com. Once again, for 20% off your order, use the code CREEPSTREET at martinicoffee.com. Martini Coffee Roasters, the perfect coffee to keep you creeps caffeinated.
You've taken a wrong turn down Creep Street.
Citizens of the Milky Way, this is Maureen Bogey.
And this is Dylan Hackworth.
And you are listening to the Creep Street Podcast.
Ooh, welcome aboard, sailors. Set sail.
We are so happy to have you with us here today. Gosh darn it, what a pleasure.
Oh, I got a cup of coffee in one hand, a bottle of water in the other, and got a notepad full of notes to take y'all on a journey.
That's right. Everyone, first of all, just an apology up front for my voice. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold.
I think she got what I got.
Yeah.
So the tables have turned.
The tables sure have turned.
Look, you can't expect Momo to keep her hands off of a prize like this.
Yeah.
Even when he's sick.
Yeah.
You can't expect a lady, she's only flesh and blood. Mm-hmm. You can't expect her to keep her paws off of this gold.
That's right. That is absolutely correct. Now, if you want to be kept up on what we're doing, feel free to follow us on Instagram at Creep Street Podcast, Twitter at Creep Street Pod. We're on Facebook, and on our Facebook, we have a subgroup called Citizens of the Milky Way, where anyone can post on there any memes, articles, short stories, ideas, anything like that. We highly recommend you go ahead and check that out. Once again, it's called Citizens of the Milky Way. Anyone is welcome to join. Also, if one episode a week is not enough for you, if you're still craving a little bit of that Creep Street, you need a little bit more of that content, that sweet, sweet content,
Woo!
Then look no further than patreon.com/Creep Street Podcast.
Hot mama, hot mama.
There you will find all sorts of bonus content, anywhere from movie reviews, spoiler casts, short stories, interviews, full bonus episodes, and so much more. We have 3 tiers, $2 a month, $5 a month, and $10 a month, so there is bound to be an option that is perfect for you and your budget.
Oh, yes.
So once again, you can check that out at patreon.com/Creep Street Podcast. Now, this week has been kind of a banger week because earlier this week, we released our interview with the lovely India Oxenberg.
That's right. And you know what interviews mean. That means it's a 2-episode week.
That's right.
We always like to drop those as surprise little bonus episodes whenever we do an interview. And good golly, what an interview it was.
Oh my gosh, if you haven't listened to it yet, we recommend that you do, especially before The Vow Season 2 comes out later in October.
We've already been chatting with India about her revisiting and really hitting a lot of because we barely scratched the surface of what we wanted to talk about.
Right. I mean, there's just so much to talk about. Gosh darn it.
But she's a busy gal.
Oh yeah.
Her and her husband Patrick, they got a new restaurant opening. They're busy folks.
Oh yeah, they got a lot going on.
These are jet setters we're talking about here.
But today we have a whole other ball game going on.
Oh boy. In some ways you could say we're taking it back to our Creep Street roots.
Yeah, I think so. I think you could say that. Dylan, what are we talking about today?
Oh, well, it's not quite October yet, but, we're scary all year round here, Creep Street.
Oh yeah.
Folks, today's episode is The Haunting of Eleonore Zugun. Now, a little word to the whiz, a little word to the wise. This, I was so excited when I came across this episode, and I'm so excited to share it with everyone. I'll be honest, could not find a lot of sources.
Oh, really?
This was kind of hard to dig up sources, both in written form and in video form. Most of the videos online were in another language. I was able to find a few sources from Mysterious Universe, but really not that many sources. But good golly, what a story. And I think we're going to see some similarities
Okay.
in between this story and other poltergeist-esque stories we've covered in the past. But real quick, let me base this turkey with my sources. First up, The Strange Case of the Romanian Ghost Girl by Brent Swanser at Mysterious Universe, and then also Eleonore Zugun, the Romanian Ghost Girl Possessed by Dracu by Andrew Nicholson at Mysterious Universe. Now, maybe what you just heard is ringing some bells. Dracu.
Yes, it sure is.
This story takes place, it takes place in a few places in Europe, but its home base is Romania.
Uh-oh.
Dracu
Yeah.
is Romanian for devil. Of course, Dracula, son of the devil. This is the area we're going down to.
Yeah.
Is this a haunting? Is this a demonic possession? Or was this some sort of unexplained telekinetic ability? This is a particularly freaky story, but the setup is one, like I said, we've heard many times before. It all concerns a young girl named Eleonore Zugun. Also, just as always, there's a lot of Romanian, village names and stuff like that. Of course, if I mispronounce anything, I am obviously so sorry, not intentionally doing so.
Oh, yes.
But onward. Eleonore was born in the town of Talpa, Romania on May 24th, 1913. Her family did not have much money, but overall, Eleanor's early years were very much what would have been usual for a peasant family in that area. Some of my sources even say she was illiterate, which it seems to be the case. When she was 12 years old, her parents sent her to live with her grandmother in the village of Bahai, and it was here that things began to get weird. One day, young Eleanore, she's walking down the street in the village of Bahai when she happened to find some money laying on the ground.
Oh, interesting.
She saw it and she was so excited. She took the money to a shop and spent it all on candy.
Oh, cute.
It's really sweet. It reminds me a lot of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I got a golden ticket. It's very much like that.
Yes.
She was so excited. After she got her candy, she ran home so happy she could not wait to tell her grandmother about what she found. But much to her surprise, her grandma was furious with her.
Oh, no.
She berated her, saying, "Hey, you found this money and you blew it on candy?" Remember, Eleanore comes from the peasantry, doesn't have a lot of money. Her grandma was furious that she took that money and spent it on candy when they could have spent it on other needs. In a move that was truly quite stupid, her grandmother told her that the money had most likely been left there by Dracu.
Oh, no.
As a sort of moral trap.
Right.
Dracu, as we know, translates to the devil in Romania, or to just devil. She told Eleanore that by taking this money, she was opening the door for Dracu to enter her life.
God damn it.
I know. It's so funny. It's something we've said many times on this show before is it's amazing how many legends were born out of people just trying to get kids to behave.
Right.
But this is just like, I get it, it's a different time. Different time. But this is just like whether what is about to happen was real or just like a trauma. Like you really kind of fucking set her up for this.
Oh, yeah.
It's a highly superstitious area and a superstitious town. Fuck, god damn it, Grandma.
Yeah, god damn it.
What an asshole. Well, surprise, surprise. It wasn't long after this that all the freaky shit started. It began just like many other poltergeist stories we've covered. One evening, the family is sitting around the dinner table having their evening meal when all of a sudden, stones begin to strike the sides of their house.
Oh.
What started as a trickle soon turned into a pour. The throwing of rocks began to intensify as well as the size of the objects. What started as stones became larger stones and even a piece of porcelain and a half a brick.
Oh.
The windows of the house were smashed in. And what's weird is all the objects appear to have been thrown from outside of the house inside. But when the family would go check outside, there was no one around that could be throwing these objects. But what made things doubly strange was that Eleanore seemed to be the target of these objects. Most of them would land around her feet, but it didn't stop there. In the days to follow, wherever Eleanore seemed to go, objects seemed to fly off their shelves and land at her feet. So there we go. It's already starting.
and it's got a focus on Eleanore, the young 13-year-old girl.
This checks out.
This is checking out. We're starting to see a little trend here.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, as I said, the vast majority of the folks in the surrounding area, including Eleanore and her family, they're all very superstitious people. Many of them saw this weird shit with their own eyes, objects launching themselves at Eleanore. So already she's kind of being othered by the community. Her grandmother had a priest come to examine what was going on, and he saw these stones flying at Eleanore for himself. And upon closer look, he discovered that the majority of these stones seemed to be wet.
Oh.
And he thought maybe they're coming from a stream that was nearby the family's home. So it was actually a pretty clever idea. He took one of these rocks and he made a mark on it, a very distinct mark.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were to see it again, they would know that was their stone. Makes this mark on it and he throws it back into the stream. Just a few moments later, that same rock came flying through the window and back into the house. Examining it, they could confirm that it was the same rock the priest had put the mark on.
Ooh.
And so even if it was like some little local troublemaker throwing rocks, if you throw the rock back in the stream, that's one of a billion rocks in a stream.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So
no.
this was clearly pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, it wasn't just stones that the priest witnessed. He also apparently saw dishes break on their own and other items fly across the room. He gave Eleanor's grandparents a dire warning that whatever seemed to be plaguing them was truly evil. Well, of course, this freaked out Eleanor's grandparents royally. They were all convinced demonic spirits were stalking their granddaughter. In fact, they were so terrified, they sent Eleanore back home to her parents.
Wow.
They're like, okay, enough grandparents time. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, back to the real deal.
Yeah. Well, as soon as Eleanore was back home with her parents, it was obvious that whatever this supernatural activity was, it was focused on her and not just the area where her grandparents lived, because it followed her home. The weird shit started at her parents' house just as it did at her grandmother's. Objects began to smash through the windows of the family's home. Objects began to levitate and fly around the room. On one occasion, when the family had company over, a saucer, like you would put a teacup on, not a UFO.
Oh, okay.
Just wanted to clarify, since that sometimes does come up in our episodes. A saucer, though, a dish, went flying across the room and violently hit one of their visitors in the head. Whenever Eleanore was nearby, the furniture would begin to shake and move around. And this was something new here. On one occasion, large potatoes miraculously materialized from under one of the family members' beds and flew across the room and struck her father so hard it was actually apparently quite painful.
Oh, yeah,
Potatoes.
Potato will hurt you.
No potato famine going on at Eleanor's house, at the Zugun house.
Mm-hmm.
But scariest of all, Eleanore began to awake from her sleep to find strange scratches and even bite marks on her body. And they would be in places that, she possibly couldn't have done it herself, like a bite mark on her cheek. Like, obviously, you can't bite your own cheek. So, here we go. So far, it's Poltergeist 101.
Mm-hmm. Really, it sounds like more than a poltergeist, really.
In some ways. But we'll get into this deeper as we go. Things were getting so bad that Eleanor's father summoned a priest once again to their home to assess the situation. The meeting was written about in great detail by a famed paranormal scholar, Harry Price, in his 1945 book, Poltergeist Over England. Price, who we'll get into later, he's a very celebrated person of the paranormal community, one of the early godfathers of paranormal research.
Mm-hmm.
Price details the moment in his writing when the priest came to visit the family. Soon after Eleanore had entered his room, an iron vessel, which had before been placed on a stand, suddenly burst into many pieces. Immediately afterwards, an earthen vessel, which had been on the hearth, also burst. The splinters were thrown into the court. Scarcely had the people recovered from the shock when both inner windows broke, and one of the splinters fell into the room. The outside windows remained intact. During these events, the old priest, his son, and the school teacher, Theodorescu, were all present. All, startled, ran out of the room. The teacher, looking through the window alone, saw a big chest, which stood against the wall, move backwards and forwards, as well as from side to side of its own volition. Only one young man, Joan Ostafi, had remained in the room. When he saw the chest moving, he stopped it, saying, "Wait, devil!" I see you cannot do it alone. I will help you.
I just think it's kind of funny that the young man almost said, well, devil, clearly you can't lift this on your own. Let me help you. He's a little cheeky guy.
A little cheeky.
Trying to show he's not afraid. I thought that was admirable. Admirable.
Yeah.
At this moment, a plank, hidden in the corner, sprang upon the young man and injured him. Then all again entered the room, and one of them proposed going on a pilgrimage to St. Johannes at the convent of Suksava. The name of the saint being pronounced, a stone was thrown against a picture of him that hung on the wall, destroyed the picture, and remained lodged in the wall.
So that fucking stone was thrown so hard,
Wow.
it not only destroyed the picture, it stuck in the wall like a bullet or something.
Oh, God.
Only the teacher was sufficiently courageous to remain in the room. He sat opposite a bench on which was a can of water. Suddenly, this can of water was levitated 18 inches, described a half circle, and came down on the other end of the bench without spilling a single drop of water.
So they're getting treated to a bit of a show here, which is also kind of Poltergeist 101. Sometimes, even though people get hurt, it's almost like it's performing for them.
Right.
So the villagers, of course, as you would imagine, they're all shitting their pants. And they beg the priest to hold a special mass just to cleanse this girl in the village of this evil. Despite holding a mass, so he went ahead and did it, this would have no effect. The strange phenomenon surrounding Eleanor would only intensify. Once again, the family sent poor Eleanor away, but this time not to Granny's, to the convent of Agorave, which was near the town of Talpa. According to my sources, during her time at this convent, numerous exorcisms were performed on her, but they only proved to make the activity more violent and intense. During these episodes, witnesses claimed that Eleanor would be physically lifted up and tossed about like a doll by these strange forces. On top of that, Eleanor began to display all the classic hallmarks of a demonic possession: growling, snarling, and even levitation. It only kept getting worse and worse, and the folks at the convent were worried that Eleanor was straight up on the brink of losing her sanity permanently.
Oh, God.
So once again, Eleanor is sent away, but this time from the convent to an asylum.
Oh, no.
Where she would undergo psychiatric evaluation and testing. But even here, they couldn't figure out what was going on with the poor girl. I mean, so she's went from mom and dad's to grandma's.
Right.
From grandma's back to mom and dad's.
Mm-hmm.
From mom and dad's to a convent.
Mm-hmm.
And now from a convent to an asylum.
I mean, woof.
This girl's moving. By now, all the strange stories surrounding Eleanor had leaked out, and even the press was now writing about it. There was an article printed in an Austrian newspaper that just so happened to grab the attention of psychical researcher Fritz Grunwald. He was captivated by what was going on, and he made immediate plans to go investigate this case for himself and even interview many of the witnesses and even Eleanor herself, in which he personally was witness to many of the strange phenomena. Grunwald was personally convinced that whatever was going on with her was the real deal. This was no hoax or misunderstanding in his eyes. After much persuasion, Grunwald was able to get Eleanor moved back into the convent in May of 1925. There he began a whole series of tests and observations and was able to note many of the strange things that had happened around her and to her. Objects would levitate and some would seem to materialize out of nowhere. There was a plethora of mysterious knocks and banging noises and even matches that seemed to light by themselves, which seems like a fucking hazard. Don't want to burn the whole house down.
Oh, yeah.
There would even be physical attacks, as if invisible hands would push or slap or even, enough to leave marks, as we know. Grunwald had plans for all of this to lead to a big academic study on Eleanor, but these never came to fruition. 3 weeks after Eleanor moved back into the convent, Grunwald would tragically die of a heart attack.
Ooh.
So, who knows? Is this was it just a freak accident? Was it related to what was going on?
Who knows?
Who knows? Well, Eleanor's parents are still terrified of what's going on with their daughter, and they were just about to have her shipped back off to that asylum again. But thankfully, someone swooped in to save the day. A wealthy countess from Vienna, Austria, named Zoe Wasilko Surecki. She was a personal friend of Grunwald and reached out to the family. She had begun following the case from afar and wanted Eleanor to come to Vienna for more study. Right away, Zoe was convinced, just like Grunwald, that whatever was going on with Eleanor was the real deal.
She was witness to all the strange phenomenon that Grunwald had seen. And a few years later, in 1927, after most of the ordeal had finished, Zoe, the Countess, would publish some of what she saw in an article in the British Journal of Psychical Research. Here's an excerpt. Most interesting were the very rare cases when the last part of the hypothetical line of flight of a moving object was to be observed. Once I entered my room and looked at the window. Eleanor was standing behind me. Suddenly I saw a shadow which glided down slowly in front of the window, and not straight, but in a zigzag line. Then I heard a low sound of something falling. I looked and saw a little iron box filled with dominoes. The box was closed, but some of the dominoes lay next to it on the floor. Another time, I was sitting with Mr. Klein at the round table while Eleanor stood with a cat in her arms at the bookstand. Mr. Klein unintentionally looked at the girl and, on this occasion, noticed a dark gray shadow come from behind her, pass along her right side, and fall under our table upon the cushions at our feet. It was a thin box, which before had stood on the washstand on the other side of the room. I had always the impression that a returning object of the kind was only again submitted to the normal laws of the physical world when it was perfectly itself again. The foregoing shadow has nothing at all to do with the appearance of the object itself. I think that the impression which this moving riddle makes is described best by the words "hole in the world," which I used for it. Interesting. So there's like a shadow entity that seems to be following her, and it's like moving these objects around.
Ooh, that's creepy.
During this time, Eleanor began to display other strange abilities as well. It's said she would slip into a trance-like state, and while in this trance, she would take a pen and scrawl out messages, which obviously is weird for a very specific reason. If you'll remember, Eleanor was apparently completely illiterate.
Right.
Apparently, on one of these occasions, she slipped into a trance and, picking up a pen, scrawled out a note in perfect Romanian in which she identified the location of a set of keys that the Countess Zoe had apparently lost. And when Zoe went to look for herself, she found the keys exactly where the message said they would be. But in addition to these strange messages, the physical attacks on Eleanor only grew worse as well. Many witnesses claim to have seen Eleanor's hair suddenly lift and yank as if invisible hands were violently pulling her hair. Strange puncture wounds would also appear on her body as if she had been jabbed with a needle. In fact, the Countess, Zoe, claimed that on some occasions, it appeared as though actual needles were poking out of her skin from within.
Ooh, what the fuck?
And perhaps scariest of all was the claimed signs of stigmata that began to appear as well.
Uh-oh.
Zoe the Countess was later quoted saying, "An example of the stigmata manifestation occurred yesterday morning in my presence. Soon after I had entered the room, a mark was noticed rapidly growing on the girl's arm. As I watched it, it grew into a number of cruel-looking wheals, which might have been inflicted by a whip or a thin cane. I am satisfied that neither the girl nor anyone else could have inflicted any such blow. Within a few minutes, the marks had disappeared. Some minutes later, while I was helping Eleanor to wind up a clockwork cat, of which she is inordinately fond, I myself saw similar wheals beginning to appear on her other arm and at the back of her neck. Nobody but myself was near her at the time, and both her own hands were fully occupied with the toy." So we're starting to see signs of stigmata.
Yikes. Okay. Big deal there. Big deal.
Big deal there. Good golly.
Yeah.
As the case only intensified, it happened to grab the attention of a famed paranormal researcher, one we mentioned earlier when we quoted him, Harry Price. Now, Harry Price, as I said, is someone who will pop up in many episodes that we do, and probably in some I think that we've covered already. He's popped up. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Once you start getting to 147 episodes, baby,
sometimes it's hard to recall.
It's hard to recall. He is considered, as I said, by many, one of the godfathers of paranormal research, and at this time, Price was already perhaps most well-known and celebrated person in the field when he entered the Eleonore Zugun story. In April of 1926, Price came to Vienna to begin his own investigations with the girl. When Price first entered the picture, he was a bit skeptical of the claims surrounding Eleanor, but on his very first of many visits to Zoe's flat where he interviewed Eleanor, any doubts that he had were quickly brushed aside. He would be witness to many of these incredible instances,
Price would later write about his first meeting with Eleonore Zugun, saying,
"The Countess and I seated ourselves on the couch and watched Eleanor playing with a toy that fascinated her. A spring gun that projected a celluloid ping-pong ball, which was caught in a sort of conical wire basket that was attached to the gun. Suddenly, as we watched, the ball came to pieces, its component halves falling at our feet. The girl ran to the Countess and asked her to mend it. She jumped up, and so did I. As I watched my hostess examining the joint, a steel stiletto with a handle used for opening letters, the hole about 10 inches long, shot across the room from behind me and fell against the closed door. I instantly turned around, and a minute investigation revealed nothing and no one that could have projected the stiletto, which was normally kept on the writing table behind us against the wall farthest from where we stood. Let me say at once that no one in that room, and certainly not Eleanor, could have thrown the paper knife. We were at least 10 feet from the table. I had both Eleanor and the Countess in full view. Eleanor had one half of the ball in her right hand and the gun in her left. The Countess had the other half of the ball in her hand. And I was actually watching both my hostess and the child. The stiletto came from behind and to the right of us, and I was between the missile and the door. It was a brilliant introductory phenomenon. I will not describe the many other manifestations I witnessed during the days I spent in Vienna, as they have been detailed elsewhere. But the phenomenon included the participation of a small mirror over the partition from the bedroom side, while we three were in the study portion. Then a metal cap followed the mirror. A large black cloth dog that Eleanor used to cuddle shot from the study side of the room over the partition and fell on the coal scuttle near the bed. No one was nearer to the dog, which was lying on a chair near the French windows, than 10 feet, and Eleanor, at the moment of the flight, was pushing a table against a wall, using both her hands. Then I saw a cushion on one of the chairs begin to move. As I watched, it slid slowly off the chair and fell to the floor. No one was near it. After each of these phenomena and many others, I examined the room, the furniture, etc., but everything was normal. I reiterate that there were no wires, threads, spring releases, rubber bands, compressed air tubes, springs released by gradual expansion of a viscous substance, or similar contrivances. Things difficult to hide and easy to find in this sunlit room. We also witnessed another type of phenomenon, stigmata. Well, I was much impressed with what I had seen.
So he's seen a lot.
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff. Quite a laundry list there.
So, he's getting the first-class treatment here. VIP seats. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Harry Price was absolutely floored by Eleanor's case and made plans for her to be flown to London, where he could continue his research and observations there. And in September of 1926, that's exactly what happened. Eleanor was flown to London, and she was lodged at the National Laboratory of Psychical Research, and there she would undergo observation for several hours at a time. And Eleanor did not disappoint. Apparently, everyone at the laboratory was in awe of the wild phenomenon that centered around Eleanor. This included everything from objects moving and levitating, or they would just vanish and appear out of nowhere, or seem to fall from the ceiling. Sometimes objects would be inside of a locked cupboard and would suddenly appear outside of it. We've encountered that in other stories.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was, but remember the family, they sat on that chest that safe, and they sat on it, and then the object, it was like an egg or something, and it reappeared right in their face. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
Many of these phenomena were observed even under strict and tightly controlled conditions in the laboratory. Price would write about one event in particular in which a franc coin placed on a table was suddenly pushed across the table and onto the floor. According to his writings, the closest person to this coin was 13 feet away.
Wow.
He wrote of it saying,
"The fall of the franc was the first telekinetic phenomenon of Eleanor's witnessed at the laboratory, concerning which I was absolutely satisfied. The falling of the coin off the ledge may be a simple movement, but for this movement to take place automatically by mechanical means would require fairly elaborate apparatus which could not be rendered invisible."
In addition to this, the physical attacks continued as well, with new bruises and scratches constantly appearing on her body. Or in full view of witnesses, teeth marks would suddenly appear on her skin. Price would write about the incident in another article in the Sunday Mail, saying,
"A party was taking tea in the laboratory when Eleanor, in the act of raising her cup to her lips, gave a cry of pain and rolled up her sleeve. On her forearm appeared what seemed to be the marks of teeth deeply indented into the flesh, as if she or someone else had bitten fiercely into the arm. The marks turned from red to white and finally took the form of white, raised welts. They gradually faded, but were still noticeable after an hour or so.
Well, Harry Price obviously was convinced that Eleanor was also in possession of telekinetic abilities. In fact, he thought that's really what was behind all of it, saying that telekinetic phenomena were convincingly demonstrated and their authenticity was attested by various prominent observers. And they were confident that, quote, under scientific test conditions, movements of all small objects without physical contact undoubtedly took place. But even despite all of these eyewitnesses, there were folks who were reading about this girl in the press, and they just could not accept that it was not a hoax.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Eleanor had now been dubbed the Ghost Girl of Romania by the press.
Uh-oh.
One of the most vocal skeptics was a doctor from Munich, Germany named Hans Rosenbusch. He invited Eleanor and the Countess for observation and became convinced that it was all an act. In fact, he claimed that many of the scratches that appeared on the girl's face and neck were actually made by sleight of hand when she was pretending to brush her hair. He came to the conclusion that Eleanor was able to pull all of this off using things such as magnets and sleight of hand. Of course, the Countess, Harry Price, and the whole of the National Laboratory of Psychical Research took umbrage with this conclusion and doubled down on their claims that it was all real and that Eleanor was a genuine case of real telekinetic abilities. The Countess was so pissed off, in fact, that she even sued for libel.
Wow.
Now, Harry Price did not think that Eleanor was under the affliction of evil spirits, but he did believe the phenomenon was all real. He felt that it was actually just latent telekinetic abilities that manifested itself as a haunting. He believed that this was due to some traumatic upbringing, or childhood essentially, and he referred to Dracu as just the manifestation of these abilities. He would write, saying,
What happened to Eleanor is apparently this. During her early childhood, when the so-called poltergeist phenomenon became first apparent, simple peasants threatened her so often with Dracu the devil and what he would do to her that her subconscious mind became obsessed with the idea of whippings and bitings, etc., which the ignorant peasants said would be her lot at the hands or teeth of Dracu. Remove the Dracu complex and the girl would probably be troubled no further with stigmatic markings. If we have discovered the cause of the stigmata, I am afraid we cannot lay claim to having unraveled the mystery of the telekinetic movements of the coins, etc. We have merely proved that they happen.
Now, just to quote my source directly here, this, because I thought this was interesting and I didn't want to mess it up, so I'm just going to quote it exactly.
This is keeping with a theory on poltergeist activity called recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, or RSPK, in which a person, usually a prepubescent, will subconsciously lash out with psychic energy under stress or trauma, which is powerful enough to manifest and affect the physical world around them in a variety of profound and very weird ways. The subject is very often totally unaware that they are the source of the activity and can even be targeted by it, with both of them and those around them attributing it all to ghosts or demons when in fact it is mentally projected telekinesis.
Yeah, I could see that.
Very interesting.
That's come up a lot in some other stories that we've talked about here on the podcast.
Yes.
And I kind of see that. I could see that making sense.
Absolutely. And here's what's wild. This is going to wrap us up here. What's interesting is that in 1928, and this was wild, Eleanor hit puberty and had her first period. When this happened, all of the strange phenomenon abruptly stopped, never to happen again. After this, she would sort of drop out of the public eye and go about her life. So, what was going on? What's weird is that it stopped when she hit puberty.
Right, usually it's like around that time.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but also it's a huge physical shift happening in your body. So maybe that is affecting her abilities in some way. I don't know. Or her magnetic field or something. I don't know.
Exactly. But like I said, there was not many sources I could find about this story. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, I absolutely enjoyed it. Dylan, thank you so much for doing all of that fantastic research, and what one hell of a story that was.
Oh, of course, it was my pleasure, my sweetest treasure.
Yes.
I've got a list of names I wouldn't mind leaving bite marks on me.
Oh, come on.
Folks, the names of our top-tier Patreon subscribers, of course, the Dream James Watkins, the Finnish Face Via Lungfus, the Madman Marcus Hall, the Vivacious Vicky McHugh, the Tenacious Teresa Hackworth, the Heartbreak Kid, Chris Hackworth, the oh-so-suave Sean Richardson, the British Bonebreaker Bex Martin, the Notorious Nicholas Barker, the Terrifying Taylor Lashmet, the Count of Cool Cameron Corliss, the Archduke of Attitude Adam Archer, the Sinister Sam Kiker, the Nightmare of New Zealand Noeline Vivilli, the Loathsome Johnny Love, the Carnivorous Kevin Bogey, the Killer Stud Carl Staub, the Firestarter Heather Carter, the Conqueror Christopher Damian Damaris, the Awfully Awesome Annie, the Murderous Maggie Leach, the Sir of Sexy Sam Hackworth, the Evil Elizabeth Riley, Lauren Hellfire Hernandez Lopez, the Maniacal Laura Maynard, the Vicious Karen Van Buren, the Arch Nemesis Aaron Bird, the Sadistic Sergio Castillo, the Rapscallion Ryan Crum, the Beast Benjamin Huang, the Devilish Chris Doucette, the Psycho Sam, the Electric Emily Zhang, and the Ghoulish Gert Hankong.
Wow, thank you so much to all of our top-tier Patreon subscribers. We couldn't do it without you, and we are so grateful to have you as a part of the Creep Street Homeowners Association.
Truly, the fact that we get to do this every week, and the fact that we even get to make stuff for the Patreon, that we have Patreon listeners who want to hear stuff, the fact that we got to interview people like Jerry Minor, Indy Oxenberg, it's all because of you guys.
Yes.
So thank you so much for that, and it's just going to keep getting bigger, better, and scarier here on Creep Street, folks.
That's right. Please like, rate, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend, post about us on social media. Any of these things really helps out the podcast and helps us grow.
Citizens of the Milky Way, my name is Dylan Hackworth.
I'm Maureen Bogey.
A good night and goodbye.